Alright guys, Touch Quite a bit back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Monday so far. And today we have to talk about this past weekend of the Minnesota home series. Remarkable result. Florida Mutineers in incredible fashion walk away with the championship. I think out of the 13 series, something like 8 of them were game 5s. It was an incredibly entertaining weekend. The best thing is, this coming Friday, the Paris Legion home series kicks off as well with Florida Mutineers, Dallas Empire and Atlanta FaZe. All 3 teams that did make the championship Sunday yesterday. Remarkable situation, the fact that Florida managed to walk away with this one in the championship, which I thought a lot of other people thought was going to decide the number 1 team in the game between Dallas, Atlanta and Chicago. Maybe there's a new number 1 team in the game, right? That's something you can certainly argue right now in their first ever tournament as a team together with this Awakening squad. We got to talk about this in coming minutes. Really intrigued to hear your thoughts down below on this one. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's hop into things then. The first series of the day was LAG versus Atlanta FaZe, and the fact that Atlanta FaZe had even got this far in the tournament was pretty incredible given that the game 5s and the reverse sweeps that they had managed to do, and they do it again, to be honest, not in reverse sweep fashion this time, but game number 1, Gorillas win at 250-239, and really FaZe's hardpoint was pretty weak, to be honest, this entire weekend. They weren't the team that we've typically seen them being, but then again, they still make the grand finals here, right? Which is impressive, especially looking forward to champs where seeding is just so important. The fact that FaZe keep picking up points while not playing their best Call of Duty is pretty impressive. But yeah, Gorillas win map number 1, 250-239. Then game 2, FaZe bounce back with an impressive 6-5 win. Like, if you're playing against the Gorillas and you're going to lose respawns, you just have to beat them in the search and destroys, which is tough to do, but FaZe do make it work. Of course, that was Chicago's downfall when they played it up against the LAG a couple of days ago. But Gorillas win another respawn here in the Game 3 domination. FaZe bounce back with a nice win on Hackney Yards hardpoint. And then it goes Game 5 and FaZe closing out on this gun runner. Pretty incredible. It was 4-4. Aqua shoots Vivid in the bag. Pretty crazy situation. They were both trying to do a flank. Vivid was taking a gunfight against Celium. Aqua kind of bunny hopped behind him. I think Vivid was kind of weak. Shot him in the back of the head. They end up losing that round. And FaZe close out the series 6-4. But incredible, really, if you're Gorillas, the fact that you win 2 hardpoints or 2 respawns against FaZe and you still lose the searches. But FaZe somehow cheat death once again. Gorillas take them to game 5. Like, really impressive from Gorillas, right? The fact that they've managed to pull this off, especially against Chicago yesterday, now taking FaZe to this game 5. And just wanted to mention this as well, because Dotty Sports did an interview a few days ago now with, 3rd of June, with Bevels, of course, the coach that won the World Championship in 2018 on World War II. And he said, I truly believe by the end of the season when champs comes around, we're going to be able to be a contender. So definitely possible. LAG could well continue to improve. And if their search and destroy stays very solid, and even, you know, they could have beaten Atlanta FaZe here, right? If their search and destroy was a little bit better when it mattered, they could be championship contenders, which, to be honest, is pretty crazy to say. But Vivid looks something else. He was on another level right here. These are the overall scoreboards, courtesy of Cam Allen. Again, link to that down below. But yeah, we see that Blast with a 1.2 over the course of the series doesn't quite work out for them. And yeah, Simp and Major Maniac especially had good series here to close it out when it mattered. Prince Celium, of course, I also should mention. So then the next series, Florida versus Dallas. And this to me was going to be the more exciting one because Florida, they showed against LAG how good they can be in the respawns. They looked very, very good against Chicago early on. And Florida usually have slow starts in tournaments, right? So the fact that they were able to come out and beat Chicago early on was very impressive. And I was expecting them to continue to improve with Awakening just coming into the squad. And they start off in incredibly impressive fashion. Like, I couldn't really believe what I was seeing, right? Like, Mutineers were challenging Empire on Shotzi's playground here on Gunner on a hardpoint, but they beat them 250-169. They were just slicing through Empire's hardpoint setups like butter, like a knife through butter. It was just incredible. 250-169. Then the game 2, Empire just bounced back, right? And the fact that Mutineers won this tournament with their search and destroy being relatively lackluster, and this is something you'd expect, right? A new team comes into the fray. Generally, you're going to expect their search and destroy not to be as strong because they haven't had as much chance to practice it as they have with respawns. Are easier to pick up, I suppose, with a new player coming into the squad. But Awakening was on another level. Empire closed out their search and destroy, and then game 3 as well here on Gunner Owner, which really is Empire's map. To be honest, they're very, very good on it. They close out the domination. Illy has an unbelievable map 3. He goes like 33 and 18 or something. Pretty rare for Millie that we see him have an absolute standout map. When he does, they're very tough to beat. So at this point, it's like, okay, well, Mutineers lost 2 hardpoints earlier in the tournament to Chicago. Can they get the job done against Empire, a very solid squad in all modes? Indeed, they can. It goes to Ramaza, and this was the map where they just destroyed LAG on yesterday, like 250 to 100. This one at 250 to 197. Sky starts off absolute monster. He's like 13-0. He was going for the Marky B flawless game. Doesn't happen in the end. Empire just lose this one 250 197, and it goes to a game 5 again on Ramazza. So yes, Mutineers' Search and Destroy might not be so good, but on Ramazza they beat Chicago 6-4 in that game 5 on the very first day, and they get the job done against Dallas again. Incredible stuff. 6-5 in this one. You know, I think Dallas are up like 5-4 or 4-3, so definitely they could have closed it out, but Mutineers got the job done when it mattered most and clutched up in the Search and Destroy. This is one of the best series of the weekend, to be honest. There was so much intensity either way. And yeah, Empire lose a game 5, right, to the Florida Mutineers. Incredible fashion, to be honest. And it was really the respawns that turned it around for me, because Search and Destroys are probably going to get traded over time. The impressive thing for Mutineers is that in theory, their Search on certain maps should improve over time as they get more chance to have some reps on that map. But their hardpoints were just incredible. Like the way these guys run around the map, the fact that Frosty, Pharaoh have it, basically all the guys can take over at any moment. That's what's so impressive about this squad. And we talked about a long time on the Charlotte Morks on this SMG. Was he really going to cut it? Now we've got Awakening on the squad who can take over the tournament and will take over the map at any moment at all. Definitely seems to be the factor for them. And the fact that Skies is going to consistently put up like 1.3s, you know, you can't beat that, right? And Frosty even being the inconsistent player, and Pharaoh as well to some degree, and Havoc as well to some degree, when they're all firing on all cylinders, it's basically an impossible team to beat, right? Like the way they were breaking these hardpoint was frankly just incredible. Then we see the final series standings, like, oh, you know, Skies with a 1.4, Awakening with a 1.0, Havoc with a 1.1. And Frosty doesn't even have the best series, but they get the job done. And Shots here's a pretty lackluster one from his standings as well. So Empire bow out of the tournament in 3rd through 4th place. And I thought this was kind of funny because Dallas did this tweet, kind of taking the mick out of Chicago fans, right, by saying not Huntsman turning up to Championship Sunday. Then Florida bounced back with this one, saying that, well, rolling up to the grand finals, you know, not with Dallas Empire there. So it was FaZe versus, well, Florida Mutineers in the grand finals, and this is how it went. So really, the entire weekend there was so many great series. The grand finals was probably the one that was most underwhelming in a lot of people's minds, because this one finished 251-46, map number 1. Again, Gunrunner hardpoint, just absolute domination. Like, it was incredible the way these guys were just waltzing around the map, popping 2 pieces left, right, and center. The kill feed was just full of green, or I think they were white in this final series, but just incredible. 251-46, like not many teams can do that to a squad like FaZe, and yes, FaZe honestly kind of felt somewhat lucky to even get to the grand finals. So after coming off that Dallas victory, I felt like Mutineers almost were favourites, right, coming into this one, but FaZe once again do win this Search and Destroy, and this is where Mutineers could be so deadly, right? Like obviously they're an incredibly good hardpoint squad, and you know, I guess you look back to Chicago and you think, damn, they lost. Chicago, did they really have the group of death, right, against the Florida Mutineers and LAG, both squads who are capable of taking anyone to a game 5 and probably winning them and dominating them in respawn. So maybe Chicago got somewhat unlucky with their group draw in this one. But yeah, the fact that Mutineers seem to be so good in the respawns, especially their domination as well, like Skies, we'll look at this game 3 domination in a second, is something else. But the fact that potentially in the Search and Destroys they could get better and they could continue improving, and if they, you know, have more reps in on a map like Arklov Peak or a map like, you know, Piccadilly or one of these maps, and they get some more Search and Destroy practice in, they can compete with some of the best teams in the Search and Destroys consistently and win like 60% of searches. They're going to be like, you know, a dominant force, you could say, right? So yeah, they do lose this Search and Destroy. Then game 3, I mean, Skies goes like 27-11, pretty remarkable from a main assault rifle, just takes over this one. This is also Pharaoh's playground, I feel, on this in Petrograd domination. He's just phenomenal at it. 177-132, and then the final map of the entire tournament came on Hackney Yard hardpoint, and Florida Mutineers had a good lead. FaZe brought it back, but right at the end on that P1, you know, Mutineers closing out when it mattered most. An incredible tournament from them. The fact that they were able to run through the teams they were able to run through to win this one, just incredible. They beat Chicago first up, where they usually start that tournament slow, taking them down. Then they beat the LAG, who came top 4 in the tournament, then running through Dallas, then running through Atlanta. You know, we don't see tournament runs like this very often at all. Pharaoh with a 1.3, Skies with a 1.5, Awakening with a 1. You know, and Frosty with a 1.2. Like, this kind of slang is unprecedented. FaZe got destroyed. Priestr had a pretty terrible series at the end of it as well. Mutineers slang was just absolutely something else, and they win the entire championship. Not what I was expecting at all. I'm sure not what a lot of you guys were expecting either. But the fact that Florida win this is just incredible. Their first tournament with a new team really begs the question, right? Where do power rankings sit right now? Yes, you could say that Dallas and Atlanta have been more consistent than Florida over several tournaments, so maybe you still want to put Atlanta or Dallas at number 1, something like that. But, you know, Florida have to be there, right? They join all those other teams, Chicago, Dallas, and Atlanta, on 2 event victories, both of which are online, so people are going to have questions, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, they clearly outplayed everyone this weekend, and their respawn was just a force to be reckoned with, right? And the fact that Frosty continues to get better, the fact that Awakening probably needs to, you know, fit his groove fully into the squad, and is probably going to continue to improve throughout the season, and the fact that they're a new team and their Search and Destroy can keep getting better, is so scary for other squads, and we're going to see them in action once again this weekend. So genuinely pretty remarkable. This is how the CDL point standings look right now. So FaZe are sitting here again at number 1 spot. Chicago in second, but you know, they do have they've played one more event than some other teams. Have had the Minnesota Rocker, but Florida jump up here to 4th place, and these are clearly the top 4 teams right now in whatever order you want to put them in my opinion at least. But this weekend gets increasingly spicy. So EasyMac comes out with the stat lines: 1.32 for Skies. Formula had a great weekend. So did Shotzzy, of course. Blast on the LAG. Hook a 1.15. Awakening a 1.12, and Simp down here in 10th. So incredible debut from Awakening. Super props to him, right? Because he was just another piece of the puzzle that could take over a game at any moment, pop a 4-piece, break a hill, and just, you know, just show why Florida is such a dominant respawn team right now. Not something I thought I'd be saying, quite frankly. So this weekend, we have the next tournament indeed. We'll have to talk about this in coming days. The Paris Legion Home Series. Of course, it was meant to be a 2-week gap, but due to the whole Minnesota event being delayed, that's how it is. June the 19th, it kicks off with the following: Paris Legion, Florida Mutineers, Dallas Empire, Royal Ravens. That's one group. OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, Subliners, Ultra, and FaZe in the other group. So, you know, once again, something to look forward to. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down below. Like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.